Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take. This one is about what else? Portland, Oregon. Portland's burning. Um, and somehow Ted Wheeler is not responsible for this mess. It is Governor Kate Brown. Is she a Democrat? Well, of course she is. Of course she is. Um, Rather than just do the simplest thing and accept the president's help to get these riots under control. See, if here's the thing about the riots. If in the beginning, the first couple of nights, Ted Wheeler had just sent in the cops, said, no, you can't riot. If you riot, no protest. Shut everything down, arrest everybody, throw everybody in jail who actually did damage, who actually did things. Don't let them out of jail, prosecute them. That would have been it. The next protest would have been as peaceful and as quiet, and it would have been wonderful. Instead, we've accelerated to this. And you've got people in your local government who think they're being heroes by not prosecuting criminals. They're destroying the city. I hope they stay there. They should be made to live in that city for the rest of their lives, because it's going the way of Detroit. They probably will stay there because that's probably the only place they'll ever have a career, in a corrupt, decaying, urban nightmare. But guess what? Kate Brown, governor of Oregon, you're going down with the DNC ship too. Because she announced, I got this plan. We're going to bring all the cops from the surrounding regions to bolster the Portland police, and we're going to arrest everybody and stop the riots. One snag. She never talked to the sheriff's offices she was referring to. The plan called, according to the article in ABC News 3340, I think this is Alabama, but everybody's covering it. The plan called on several law enforcement agencies to help, including sheriff's offices in Washington and Clackamas counties. Clackamas County Sheriff Craig Roberts says the governor didn't approach his office before rolling out the plan, intended to address the violence and arson while also protecting free speech. And from his letter, increasing the law enforcement resources in Portland will not solve nightly violence and now murder, the sheriff said. The only way to make Portland safe again is to support a policy that holds offenders accountable for their destruction and violence. They're not going to risk their cops. Why? So they can arrest people and you could let them go? Governor, you have to fire those idiots in Portland. You should fire them all. Every single one of them. You should go down to Portland. You should go right down to the city hall. You should have a meeting with every one of those prosecutors and DAs. And you should say, listen, these people have committed crimes. They need to be prosecuted. Give them a bail. Make them pay a bail so they either pay it or they got something to lose if they don't show up for the court date. And you prosecute these people. You prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. And if they say no, you say, well, I will find people who will prosecute them and fire them. If you can't fire them, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. These people have become worse and worse. That's why they're now facing federal charges. This has gone from, you throw a brick through a window, you might end up in the county lockup or most likely community service for a month, right? Something stupid and inconvenient. If you had thrown these idiots in jail the first time they stepped out of line, they would have stopped. They would have stopped because they would have been like, well, I don't want to do this again, because they would have adjusted their tactics. Now you've got full-blown rioting with arson attempts almost nightly. They blocked a door and set it on fire. It was full of policemen. That's attempted murder. Doesn't matter that they were policemen and hey, you don't like the police. That's attempted murder. Doesn't matter who was in there. These rioters are completely out of control. If you don't step up and stop them, your entire state is going to be in trouble. You think Donald Trump is going to send you federal assistance to rebuild that Portland? They hate Ted Wheeler, and I'm sure they hate you because they want to destabilize the entire United States. That's their overall goal. They won't succeed, but they may succeed in doing a lot of damage on the way out, which you will get the blame for. So first, it's Ted Wheeler, and you could dump a lot of blame on Ted Wheeler. Oh yeah, but you're the governor. And when you refuse the National Guard, when you refuse Trump's help, and then you pull a stunt like this where you don't even consult these other police organizations and then expect them to show up to bail your ass out? No, of course not. See, here's how it works. You got Trump on the top, right? The only person that rivals him in the opposite party, the Democrats, which you are one, Kate Brown, is Pelosi. And Pelosi, she blew it. She's just a terrible negotiator. She just expects everybody to kiss her ass. And I remember the meeting specifically. It was that one where she walked out. You remember that? That was her walking out in a huff. And I'm never going to work with Donald Trump again. And that was her ego talking. That's her ego. Her ego won't allow her to work with Trump. She won't pay him even lip service at this point. She's too angry at him for the slights. You know, Trump has, you know, Trump's an a-hole. He'll push your buttons, but you know, Pelosi is worse. She's an elitist. You push her buttons, she says "F you." F you, I'm taking my ball and going home. And that's what she did. So the next step was to have every member of Congress try to go after Trump. And they all failed, one after another. Every single Democratic candidate went after Trump. They all failed. Then it was the governor's turn. Cuomo, a few others. The one in Michigan. God, she's awful. They all kind of went after Trump, and they used the beer virus as a political cudgel to go after him. How'd that work out? Not so good. Beer virus is dying. Nobody cares anymore. Everybody's bristling under this. Democratic states are going under. Republican states are doing fine. So, okay. Then the next step was to go down to the mayors. So now you're down to the mayors. And they got a little bit of sway because they're very populous cities. But they've destroyed their own cities in the process. De Blasio is destroying New York City just to get at Trump. He doesn't care about New York City. He doesn't care about the people in it. He cares about this game. And the game is get Trump and then we win. He ain't going to win. He thinks he's getting at Trump because he's got real estate holdings in New York. Those real estate holdings will be there. Yeah, he might lose a little bit of money, but it's nothing compared to the people in New York whose lives he's destroyed. Same thing with Ted Wheeler. Same thing with Jenny Durkin and Lori Lightfoot. These mayors have destroyed their cities. Now you got Evers, who finally woke up and called in the National Guard. I guess he had no choice. But thank God he did. And yes, Trump is going to use it as a political weapon. But he's already won. Trump's got over 20% of the black vote. Over 20%. Like some models have him up to 30, 28, at least 20. And it's always been said, if the Republicans ever get 20% of the black vote, the Democrats will never win another presidential election. And it's true. The Democrats, they over-depended upon that group, and they took them for granted in the process. And Trump saw through that. And Trump's not a bad guy, no matter how much you call him racist. And in fact, your stupid plan of calling him a racist non-stop has backfired so completely that no one believes you anymore. No one believes the media anymore. No one cares what they say. They get their news from the internet. So you got a choice. You could go to Trump and say, okay, send in the troops. Send in the National Guard. Let's get this over with. It'll be over in a day. Trump will take his victory lap and it'll be over. And you can go back to running the state into the ground slowly instead of quickly. because Portland, I'm sure, was a huge portion of your tax base, and now it's going away. Everybody's leaving that city. Anybody with any sense is going to leave that city, just like they're leaving Seattle, just like they are leaving Minneapolis, just like they're going to leave Chicago and New York. And they are leaving San Francisco. And San Francisco is supposedly the best city ever, according to progressives. Now people are fleeing it in record numbers. People have sold, they're selling their houses. Goodbye. They don't care how much money they're losing at this point. They'd rather be in West Bumblef than any city in the United States right now. So, you got a choice, Governor. Stop the violence. Save people. Maybe you could pick up the pieces of your political career without being so partisan, without being part of the DNC that took everybody down. And you could look back and say, well, I worked with Donald Trump and he wasn't as bad as they said. You at least would have that door open to you. You go down with this ship, you go down alone. Even the sheriffs know that. They can read you. And they're not going down with you. None of these cops are. They're going to protect their communities. And I don't blame them. Don't be an idiot. Don't be Ted Wheeler. Ask for Trump's help.